A 17-year-old who said she was raped was put in juvenile detention for several weeks because she didn't show up for court. A judge finally let her go yesterday. She didn't show up twice to testify against the man charged with sexually assaulting her and at least one other woman. The law apparently says she doesn't actually have to testify. Prosecutors, though, say they need her to testify. According to local media, both sides agreed that she'll wear a GPS tracking device. There's a lot to sort out here, so much. Amina Merritt is the young woman's attorney. She is joining us via Skype. We also have Sandra Enriquez. She's the executive director for the California Coalition Against Sexual Assault. Ladies, thank you both for joining me. Amina, first of all, I know that you are so glad that your client is not locked up anymore, and I can tell you that so many of our viewers are as well. They have been following this. They have been commenting on it, so that's good to hear. How is she doing?
She is doing exceptionally well. I am constantly amazed at her resilience and the fact that she actually smiles at me every time I see her. And I tell her it's amazing that you can smile through all this.
How did we end up here, Amina? Because when we first visited this story a little over a week ago, the legal analyst that we had on, BJ Bernstein, said that to her it seemed so obvious that you would not lock her up, that you would just get some sort of electronic monitoring. How did we end up here?
That's a good question. I am very concerned that we ended up here. It's unprecedented, and I don't know any case in the state of California or nationally where the district attorney has treated a rape victim this way, and especially a rape victim who is a minor. And that was my concern the entire time.
And you brought up the district attorney's office. Let's go ahead and hear a little bit from them right now.
It becomes a question of balancing the inconvenience to the witness, and we're talking about a relatively short period of time here, against the protection of the community.
Sandra, I want to bring you in now because you deal with victims often, and people that I have talked to, lawyers who also represent victims, say that in situations like this, people who are accused of taking advantage of them in the worst way, count on them being scared, count on them not wanting to show up, and the legal system has to do a better job of working with victims.
Yes, that's right. I mean, it's very difficult for a victim to come forward and go through the criminal justice system, having to face the perpetrator or the offender, and oftentimes go through many postponed hearing dates and things like that. And so each and every time that happens, that victim has to kind of get psychologically ready to face this individual and to go back through the story. And so it is a very difficult and challenging process to go through. However, it also can be, for some victims, a healing process in terms of, particularly if they're able to secure a conviction on the case.
Amina, so having said that, I mean, I think anyone can certainly understand why it is so difficult for your client to want to go through with testifying, why she's scared. She's been through the foster system. Does that resonate with you, what Sandra is saying, that perhaps if she does go through with it, it might be a healing process with her? Have you had any of those types of discussions with her?
Yes, we have. But, I want to go back to that point that was made about having to tell the story over and over again. In children's court, juvenile dependency court, where I practice, we have victims all the time. These are abuse and neglect cases. And we do have procedures in place in order to protect the victims, and I don't understand why one of those lesser alternatives was not used in this case to preserve the witness's testimony. We do it all the time. We use what's called a safe interview, and that is treated as evidence in the court. So I don't know if the district attorney's office even considered that as a possibility, but I believe it should have been employed because she is a minor.
And this is Sexual Assault Awareness Month. I think it's really important that we're shining a light on issues like this. So perhaps going forward, people that are in the justice system that do want to help victims perhaps just don't know how better to do that, Sandra. I mean, because I think we've actually made a lot of progress when you say in prosecuting rapist. But I think that there's still a lot of people in the justice system that really don't always know how to handle these situations right.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that we need to remember is that in the last 40 years that we've really been doing this kind of work around the rights of sexual assault victims, we've made a lot of advances really in terms of trying to put the responsibility back where it lies with the offender or the perpetrator. And so in a case like this, I think the danger is, you know, in trying to find a balance between public safety, you know, that we need to be very careful that we're not then violating the rights of that individual victim, because, you know, when we do that, we're really sending a message that public safety supersedes the individual right of victims. And I think that that can actually be a very dangerous thing that can backfire, because we may then end up with victims who are unwilling to even seek assistance out of fear that they may end up then forced or compelled to testify, you know, by fear of being jailed. And so I think that you know, there does need to be a balance, but we really do need to make sure that we are respecting the individual rights of victims.
You know, I promised viewers I would get in some of their comments because they've been so fired up about this, and they actually are echoing a lot of what you both have been saying. Amber said this: this case will scare other girls away from even reporting they were raped in the first place. And I gotta get in Ed's comment because he's such a loyal viewer. Ed said, this traumatized girl is being victimized again, this time by those sworn to protect her. And again, I really want to say that it's clear that the DA, they believe that they're doing the right thing, and we just hope that going forward that they will get a little bit closer to right. But Sandra, I think you made a really good point, and Amina, you did as well. The responsibility, it should not be on the victim. We have to leave the responsibility where it is, where it should be, and that's on the adults, always. It always has to be on the adults. Amina Merritt and Sandra Enriquez, great discussion, and an especially important discussion during Sexual Assault Awareness Month. And Amina, again, we're so glad that your client is not locked up anymore. Thank you both.